I accidentally chugged another pre-workout after my workout instead of the post-workout. So this is going to be the best Q&A ever. For those of you who take Legion supplements, love the company. It's the only pre-workout I can take. It's been like the only blend of anything, like even the post-workout, it's not just creatine, that I've been able to take in like a decade. It's very easy on my stomach. I feel really good taking this stuff. But their fucking pre and post workouts look exactly the same. There's the same label. They just change the name on the front. One's Pulse, one's Recharge, and I almost do it all the time. No? One should be purple or something.
Well,
post workout should be purple.
You're colorblind to the color purple.
Regardless, I've almost done it a handful of times. I did it today, chugged it. I'm like, wait a second, that didn't taste like strawberry lemonade, and realized I chugged another pre-workout. So I'm getting the tingles. I'm hyped up. It's gonna be a great pump. I'm gonna have a great pump for this episode. Why don't you take it away?
All right, Q&A day. We missed last week, right? Because I was away.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. But we're going to get to last week's questions and this week's. We have some good ones that we're going to be discussing. So let's kick it off. Who are the fitness, nutrition, well-being practitioners or influencers you both look to for quality information and inspiration, and why?
The ones who aren't assholes.
Honestly, I was thinking about this question a lot before.
So you prepared and you're just going to pepper me with these on the spot.
No, because there's not really any that I'm like...
I'm saying you read the questions.
Oh, yeah, of course. I read through the questions. But for this one in particular, I was like really thinking about it hard. And I'm like, there really aren't any that I'm like, I love this person. Like, I feel like when we first...
What was the specific? Was it training and nutrition?
No, it could be anybody we look up to, like as far as like fitness, wellness, just practitioners. I don't know. There's no one that I'm like...
The beta-alanine's kicking into my face.
I need to go look at their Instagram today, or I need to go see what this person has been posting about. Like, there's a few researchers that we go to for information. Like, I don't know if you follow Menno Henselmans, but he posts like scientific studies. But I don't know. There's not really many out there that I'm like, yeah, let me go here and see what this person is up to or like what they're talking about. I like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I think she has a great book.
She has a great book.
She has a great book. She talks a lot about like the importance of high protein and just is in the same mindset as us. Somebody new, she's been on a lot of like I don't want to say political, but I guess it is, that Tucker Carlson podcast. She has a book. It's all about like, I'm forgetting her name.
Infertility lady?
No, it was more so about just like, somebody sent it to me, and hold on, you can talk about yours while I find this, because it was somebody who was in alignment with a lot of the stuff.
I mean, with mine,
that we
especially nowadays, like it's not someone, like you said, that we kind of seek out and look for additional information. I think at this point, we're common sense based. Like, it's great to keep up on the science, obviously, and hear what they have to say, which I love, like all the new stuff. Hey, does it work for me? Try it. If it does, cool. If it doesn't work, then, move forward. But we are so grounded in the common sense era. And I think that's where, a lot of us strive for new information. We seek out new information when we kind of overlook the practical things. So there's no point in looking for the icing on the cake. What's the most nutrient dense calorie I can get? What food, what time of day? When we haven't even mastered the basics. And the basics are what are going to get you to your goal and allow you to thrive. And then when you really want to fine tune from that point, awesome. So with that in mind, like people I enjoy listening to. So when we started this, I said anyone who's not an asshole. Like, I feel like a lot of the ones who are heavier duty, I won't name
like
anybody. I won't name anybody. Heavy science based. They've just become the reverse bully. Yeah. Like they bully on the other side. And I think I called it reverse fear mongering in a video. I think it's just as dangerous as fear mongering, because on the one side you have those who are, don't eat sugar, you're going to die. On the other side, no, sugar's fine. Eat all the sugar. Nobody needs reinforcement to eat more sugar. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't agree with fear mongering, but people are already eating all the sugar. They're already eating all the highly processed foods. They don't need you to reinforce that it's okay. We need to come back to the middle, which is not sexy. And that's why these guys are doing so well on social media, is they are just as guilty as the fear mongerers, because they are utilizing the controversial aspect of social media in their statements to get more hype, which to me, you look like a fucking idiot. And anyone, worth 2 cents should understand that. And I'm sure that they do. And that's why it pisses me off that they just do it for the views anyway. So there are some big names that are incredibly smart and have incredible, intellect, but I can't watch them because they're D-bags.
Yeah.
I
will say.
Go ahead.
I will say I do like Huberman. He's very science-based. He's kind of middle of the road. Doesn't post extreme like fear-mongering things to
practical
get views.
Approaches.
It's very practical. It's very Gen Pop based. And whether or not you agree with every single thing he says, you're not going to
agree with anybody all the
exactly.
time. So the ones I enjoy seeing what Peter Attia has to say. I enjoy watching Thomas DeLauer, and I know he was a controversial figure for a while, and he's kind of come around and really.
Did he have a different name, or was that always his username?
It's on YouTube. I think it's YouTube and Instagram. It's Thomas DeLauer. He was keto for a while, and he was big on fasting. He's kind of circled back on that a little bit, but again, he was. I don't want to say extreme. He's never really super extreme, I don't think, but. He's understood like the moderation thing recently, and his content's always really good. He'll give you the science stuff. There's one more I was going to say that I've been enjoying. Oh, old school, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Like she was I like her. Before anybody else. That was the one I used to watch all the time. She had a lot of great stuff. So
the two that recently people like, I want to say 4 people DM me and were like, you have to watch this interview. It was Casey and Callie Means. Callie Means is the co-founder of TrueMed, which is what we use to give you guys like your insurance kickback. She's
partnered with Dr. Mark Hyman, isn't she? Isn't he the other founder?
He's the other founder. That Callie Means is a boy.
What?
Callie is a boy.
Okay. He.
That's the husband. Casey Means is a Stanford grad. She also has a book called Good Energy, and I think it just came out. So she's kind of bouncing around the different podcasts and stuff. That's why you guys are hearing about her more, but we're very in alignment of just like the things that we talk about as far as what's making people sicker and like just where the world is trending. So, and
obviously with the TrueMed launch, like they're doing great things to actually hold insurance companies accountable.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our little rant on influencers and scientists and people like that. Next question. I would love to hear from you on how training and eating should or shouldn't change throughout different parts of a woman's cycle. I find myself hungrier on certain weeks and wonder how it's all related. This is also another kind of hot topic, maybe not as much now. About a year or so ago, people were talking about cycle syncing a lot. Honestly, it's not something you should overly stress about. There's not like a lot of people post about cycle syncing and saying things like, well, when you're in your luteal phase, you should never do any like high intensity type of training or like
cycle syncing when a bunch of girls live together.
You're thinking of it in a different way, but what? I didn't hear the last thing you said.
When a bunch of girls live together
and how their cycle syncs. Yeah. I think that's a thing, but no, that's not what we're talking about here. This is more like, should you change your training when you're at different points of your menstrual cycle? So the popular thing that like blew up on TikTok was people in the first 2 weeks of their cycle would lift and do like more of the intense stuff, and then in the last 2 weeks you should do Pilates and like gentle things. And if you did that,
a waste of time.
You would never see progress ever. So no, you shouldn't change your training based on your cycle. With that said, you want to pay attention to your biofeedback. And this is both men and women. So it's not just for women, but we talk a lot about biofeedback on the podcast and, focusing on your sleep, your stress, your recovery. Your menstrual cycle is part of that biofeedback and tracking how you feel during different parts of your cycle, which is going to differ for every single woman. Like it's going to be different for each individual. So learning what's common and normal for you is definitely going to be helpful. And that's not to say you have to change your training per se that day, but if you feel like really crappy, maybe you scale back on intensity a little bit, or you opt to move your heavy leg day for the next day. That's just one example. But as far as nutrition goes, again, it's not something you have to really shift too much when it comes to your cycle. You need to master the basics, and the basics are going to make you feel good. And when your nutrition is in the right place, it can actually help ease symptoms if you have a lot of symptoms with your cycle, like cramping and just bloating and all that stuff. Like if you are very consistent with your nutrition, protein, fiber intake especially, it's going to only help your cycle. So that's my take on that. Would the Metcon list in the app be good to do for cardio if we combined a couple? I'm doing the Evolve hybrid program and I'm loving it.
Hell yeah. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Make it fun. You don't have, like, cardio doesn't just have to be running or Stairmaster or elliptical or your bicycle or swimming or jump rope or whatever. It can be anything that elevates your heart rate.
Yeah. So we have a full calendar's worth of Metcons in the Apocalypse Protocol section of the app. A lot of people don't even know it exists, but there's a whole Metcon section in there. But yeah, it's in Apocalypse. There's a whole Metcon section in there with like different dumbbell conditioning circuits, barbell conditioning circuits. There's a bunch of different ones in there. So yeah, by all means, use that for your cardio and get something in. All right, next question. When to know to go back to lifting after a bronchial infection for a month or any sickness maybe. I think I know my body, but I've been told to hold off and then start like a beginner ?
I mean, when you feel good enough to get back in there, like, again, listen to your body, but don't go right back to previous intensity. Like,
yeah, you're going to ease back in.
Just
like,
anytime you're sick, if you go a little too early, like 1,000 times I've done this. First day back, I'm feeling good. I'm pissed off that I had a week and a half off or a week off, and I go hard, and then you get hit by a bus the next day. So just make sure intensity and volume are scaled back.
Yep. Extreme nausea and puking during pregnancy and trying to ease back in. Any advice? Kind of the same thing. So this is really no different than being sick for a month, the above. You want to ease back in, lower the volume, lower the intensity. With pregnancy, you might see those symptoms fluctuate. Like you might have a really great day where you feel good. You might have a day where you don't feel great. So you're going to have to take it day by day and just see how you feel. But I would say it's kind of the same advice. You're sick in a sense and you're not well. So ease back in when you can and focus on doing what you can when you can. And even if that is just a walk on a day you don't feel great, that still counts.
Move your body.
What to do when I'm unable to use a heavier weight, but the lesser weight is way too easy. For example, currently unable to push 14 kilo dumbbells for chest press, but with 12 kilos, I can do 8 to 10 reps.
Bump the reps up.
So do more reps with the lighter weight. And then once you can do the heavier weight with the amount of reps that you're supposed to do that. All right, cold plunge during pregnancy or stick with cold showers? First, I mean, in your opinion, is there a difference between plunging, not pregnancy aside, like difference between plunging versus showers? What is your take on that?
1,000%. Showers is not as intense. I will say, like, showers are more convenient. They're not as intense. They were never enjoyable because it was like 1,000 cold BBs, and by the time you got used to it, like I would spin half and half. So it's not easy, but it is.
It's different.
It's
for
less.
Sure.
It's. I don't even want to say it's less hard than the plunge. It's just less intense.
Yeah.
Like when you get into a cold plunge, you're actually it's cold water immersion, technical term. The first 30 seconds suck. And then you're good. Like once you get through that, whatever temperature, once you get through that 30 seconds, like you can hang out in there as long as you want. You're fine. You're not getting that full effect. And even like they'll talk about don't do it post-workout. You're probably not blunting muscle growth post-workout, even doing a cold shower. It's really not the same thing. It's not your entire body. It's not all of your blood vessels constricting.
Fully submerged.
It's just cold and uncomfortable, which is still great for the mental aspect. And that's the primary benefit that I utilize it for. So if that's what you're working with, there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to take away from that. But when we're talking about risks, when we're talking about, blunting muscle growth post-workout, it's just not the same process as jumping into a cold plunge. It's not a total body or to the bottom of your neck experience versus like one cold area. That said, to make it more intense, you could also blast yourself in the face. You could make sure you're putting your head under the water. Yeah, and if you're worried about being pregnant, you can kind of keep your belly out of the shower. Like, you know what I mean? Like just face it so it's on your back. Didn't your midwife also say if it's something you were already doing, you could continue with it?
Yeah, she did. When I was pregnant with Cora, that's when I asked her about it the first time. And we, at the time, didn't have a plunge because we had chickens in it. So we were both doing the shower at that time. And then I just kind of continued with the showers throughout pregnancy. I just, again, did it for the mental health benefits and just did the showers every day.
But there have been women who've done actual cold plunges throughout pregnancy, and like the Norway and
yeah, I think I have this saved in my pregnancy highlight on my Instagram page. I answered this question in Q&A and I tagged there's not very much information out there, but I did tag a couple. I think it was a blog post and maybe they talked about a study. But if you guys want to go read that, that's where it is.
That said, always consult with your doctor. Like, this is not medical advice. It's our personal experience.
And you have to do what you're comfortable with. Yeah. So if you're worried at all, then the showers are still great. It's not like they're bad, not worth doing, rather. All right, this is a good one. How can we help foster a healthy relationship with food in our kids and importance on macronutrients? I don't want to villainize sweets, but I also want my toddler to fill their belly with nutritious foods first. Sometimes I fear my toddler says I'm full partway through dinner and then immediately asks for dessert. We know this. I try to trust he's in tune with his body, but 10 minutes later he's hungry and asking for a snack. So similar to your family dynamic, my kids eat what we eat, with more of a safe food at each meal, but my toddler, who's 4, really struggles with protein intake. It's a never-ending struggle.
Special vacations.
That's
what Kai calls it. Special occasions is when we have the fun stuff. So he knows, like, we're not having ice cream every night. We're not having lollipops and cake. Like, that's not a normal thing. Like, if it's someone's birthday, end of summer, like, once a week, we'll have something sweet and enjoyable. Any other time, like, we'll do like the dark chocolate, like actual dark chocolate, like 85% dark chocolate, no added sugars. And that's, we'll do not a bar, but a row of the bar after. So we get a little sweet tooth fix. We do our little dessert there with the frozen berries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, splash of milk, splash of maple syrup, and a splash of vanilla extract, blending that in the Vitamix. And it's like a little fruity ice cream thing. So we do that. So we get our fixes, but they're from healthier sources. And sometimes we'll melt dark chocolate on fruit and then put like peanuts on it.
Yeah.
So mixing it up like that. But to get back to the point,
let's answer the first part of her question first. Is, she's talking about like protein intake, and she's worried that when he says he's full and then he asks for a snack after, like with Kai, like now he's 5.
He still plays that game, though.
He still plays that game, but we can explain it like directly. Like, no, like you need to eat protein intake. It makes you feel full. It gives you stronger muscles. Like, we go through the whole charade with him there. When he was 2 or a little bit younger, we still kind of said the same thing. Like, yeah, protein gives us muscles and makes us feel good and strong. But he also didn't eat, like, he didn't try beef until he was probably closer to 3 or 4. Like, there were certain things he just didn't want to eat, which was fine. But you have to keep in mind too, like, a little kid is not going to need as much protein as we need or as we think that they need.
So if he's having a glass of milk, like, he's getting a good chunk right there.
Yeah, if they're having milk, they have an egg for breakfast, whatever it is, like, it adds up throughout the day. So I wouldn't stress about it in that sense, but
as far as explanations, like, just keep it simple. Yeah, you're going to get big and strong from this. This is going to keep you healthy. This is going to help you not get sick. Like, attach a superpower to each food based on, what it is.
Mm-hmm. The more fun you make it, the more open they will be to it. So it takes time, but be consistent with it. And I would say you're the parent. Don't give in. Don't forget that you're the one in charge. And I know you don't want to villainize things, but make it fun. Explain it and just...
Yeah, rather than this is bad for you, this is just something we only enjoy on special occasions. Yeah. It's not an everyday thing.
Yep. Okay. I started the Move program a couple weeks ago, and now I can't seem to find the time to fit cardio in. Running is my cardio of choice. I enjoy lifting more, but I'm wondering if my cardiovascular health is now declining without having both forms. Do I need to prioritize both for optimal health? And what would we suggest as far as like making time for both?
Yes, you need to prioritize both for optimal health.
Yep.
As far as time-wise, I would pick the one that you want to work on the most, whether it's your favorite or just the thing that you want to improve at this point in time more. Prioritize that one,
Well,
and then dedicate.
she said she likes running. So I think another factor here, if you don't have time, we might have talked about this recently, is if you're very, very limited on time and you want to get cardio, and choose more of a high intensity type of cardio. So if you like to run, maybe you add in sprints one day and then you do another more interval based run on a different day, because that's going to take up less time than a long zone 2 run, for example, where you just can't get out and spend 60 minutes running. You're still going to get a great benefit and get those heart health benefits, but because you're doing a much higher intensity, and make sure you're doing it at the actual high intensity, it's going to take up less time. So
be more efficient.
That's my 2 cents.
And if you can stack them. So she said she was doing move.
She does move. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, for evolve hybrid, what we talk about a lot is like, if you have to, ideally you do straight sets, but when you're packed on time, like do a superset or do a tri-set or turn the end of it into a circuit. If you absolutely need to, condense that and then stack cardio at the end of it. So little things where it's not always going to be optimal. And I just did this today. I took a 40 minute workout, turned it into like 22 minutes because I chugged a pre-workout and did a couple things and ran out of time, had to get Kai. So not optimal, but even less optimal is not doing it altogether. So if you have to stack those and, condense them, reduce rest times, do what you got to do.
What is the best amount of calories to cut from maintenance if you only want to lose a few pounds?
I'm a bigger fan of starting more aggressive, and then this depends obviously on where you're starting from. But, I might start a cut in a 500 calorie deficit. So where I was eating at maintenance, reduce it by 500 calories. And then from that point, I might drop 250 calories at a time, depending on progress. So I like to see that. I don't want to call it initial shock, but it is more aggressive, and you tend to see a better stimulus right up front with a more significant drop if you have the wiggle room to do so. Like for a lot of people who don't build their calories up, you might have one shot, and then once you level off, like you're kind of fucked until you kind of rebound and build your calories back up. But let's say you're coming from 23, 24, 2,500 calories, you probably have some wiggle room as a female, not as a male. Probably has some wiggle room to be aggressive, and then when you hit the plateaus, make a couple more adjustments of the 250 mark. But it's all entirely individual. We've had clients, do great things and not even lose that much weight, lose 3 to 5 pounds, but completely transform their physique.
Don't even lose, like the scale does not change, but their entire body composition changes.
So there's a time and a place to be that aggressive.
But like Josh said, like if you're currently eating 1,800 calories, you're not going to I would not advise you to cut 500 off the bat. Like, no, do not do that. That's why we're huge advocates of making sure that women are fueling and eating enough and not always in that diet mode, because then you kind of you fuck yourself over. When you do want to actually see more progress, it's like you have nowhere to go. So you have to come back up and go to maintenance. And this kind of bleeds into the next question here.
Hang on. I think we just did we have a full episode on gaintaining, or was that just a piece of one?
I don't think that was recent.
It wasn't recent? Mm-mm. Anyway, the concept of gaintaining is kind of overlooked. And a lot of times, like if it's only a few pounds you want to lose, you probably don't even need to lose a few pounds at all. Like you just want to see your body composition change. So gaintaining is essentially maintaining weight but getting stronger. So fueling yourself the right way. A big piece of this is consuming almost entirely whole foods, nutrient-dense foods. Obviously, stuff in true moderation. We've talked about this. Not everyone knows what moderation is, but sprinkling those things in is fine. But if you can eat at maintenance from very, very nutrient-dense sources, keeping it whole foods primarily, and get stronger, you can see some awesome changes in your physique. So you can drop body fat, you can maintain muscle, if not build more muscle. So you kind of get that 2-for-1 whammy and see way better results than just trying to lose 3 pounds, because you're not going to notice 3 pounds. If you lose 3 pounds, you think I got a few pounds left, you're not going to look any different. Yeah.
So continuing on this topic of maintenance and fat loss, the next question from Anna, I've been in a deficit since February, lost 15 pounds by June. That's awesome. I'd like to lose 10 more pounds, but I feel burnt out from tracking and have not seen more weight loss since June, and it is now almost October. It's possible it has to do with burnout and adherence issues as a result. Even though I'm generally comfortable eating these same meals and volume of food, I'm 5'11", about 180 pounds, and my deficit calories have been an average of 1,800. I don't think I can maintain eating less to push for more weight loss right now. I've heard a lot about metabolism down regulating with weight loss, which makes sense, but I also heard about bringing yourself to maintenance for a while, which then helps you lose more weight. So 2 questions. Number 1, is that true? Number 2, if yes, how long should I maintain for before going back into a deficit to try to lose 10 more pounds?
Did we answer this last week?
We didn't do an episode last week.
The last podcast?
You probably read this last week. No, we didn't.
I feel like we
you
answered
probably read it. We didn't answer it. Yes, this is true. So basically, when you're in a deficit, your body is going to eventually adapt to what you're feeding it. So if you're eating 1,800 calories for an extended amount of time, that in a way becomes your maintenance, because you're not seeing.
It's a new set point.
Yeah. So yes, this is why it is important to cycle through the dieting phases. You can't just live in a deficit for the full year, because you're going to end up in a situation like this. So I would definitely recommend either doing, you're at 1,800, so you could probably just bump calories up. You don't really necessarily have to do a reverse diet unless you want to mentally. But I would definitely come back up to maintenance. I would say, like, as a coach, if you were my client, I'd probably have you come back up at least through 2024 and start again with another cut in January, just because you've been in a deficit technically, give or take, since February. That's a long time.
8 months.
So that's kind of, and that would even be kind of rushed. But that's what I would suggest if I was your coach.
So do what we just talked about, the gaintaining.
Yep.
Go back to maintenance, focus on killing in the gym, eating fantastic food sources. And then Jan 1, you could dive back into a deficit if you want.
And you'll feel good. You won't be as burnt out. You'll be crushing it in the gym. And then if you want to lose more weight, do it.
Did we answer both parts of that?
Yep. Okay. More of a question for Alessandra, since you're doing the build program and you're 16 weeks pregnant. Is there a time you're planning to switch over to the prenatal program, and how are you deciding that time frame? No. So I did build all throughout my last pregnancy with Cora. And the reason why is because I have the knowledge and ability to scale and modify when I know I need to. Like, there are certain things that I program in build that maybe don't feel good, like hip thrusts, for example, aren't my favorite during pregnancy, barbell hip thrusts. So I know how to scale that. The prenatal program is set up for those who just feel completely lost when it comes to lifting in pregnancy and they aren't really sure how to progress. So I would say it's more so for beginners or for people who just want something to follow that they know is going to yield great strength progress. But if you're in the app, you've been doing build or move or something like that, you have kind of a baseline of how to modify and how to adapt it to fit your needs. That's totally fine to continue with it. There's not really like safe versus unsafe exercises in pregnancy. It's all completely individual. So as long as you feel good doing it, you can continue doing it. That's it. All right, last question. Mindset around gaining muscle for women when the scale goes up and trying not to go back to relying on the scale weight to determine progress. I've been in maintenance for over a year, putting on a good amount of muscle with the build program, but it's still a little bit of a mind warp to see the scale go up, even if it's just a tiny bit, since I saw about the same weight for over a year. I would say that's a common struggle for women. I think men, it might be the opposite for you guys. Like, you guys want the scale to go up and you're frustrated when it's not, even if you're seeing body composition changes. So I think it is definitely a hard mindset to break, but it's also why it's important to, one, understand why the scale is shifting. So if you're weighing in every morning and you're also tracking biofeedback, you can almost every time compare the two and pinpoint why the scale went up or down, because those fluctuations are really just water weight. So understanding the scale in that sense is important. Understanding how your biofeedback impacts the scale is important. And then also just making sure you're doing other things to track your progress. So you're obviously getting stronger. That's a great sign. Take progress photos maybe once a month, or just track your progress in another way.
Agreed.
That's it.
That's it.
Great. All right. Those are all the questions from this week.
Last week.
That was all from last week too. That was kind of rapid fire. We did good.
All right. Let's wrap it up here. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.